In high-stakes situations, it's really hard to say the right thing. And unfortunately, it's really easy to say the wrong thing. Many of us avoid these high-stakes, difficult conversations because we're so afraid we're going to say the wrong thing, or we're afraid we won't be able to find the words to say the right thing. In this video, I'm going to describe a simple technique for how not to say the wrong thing in a high-stakes situation. Hi, everybody. I'm Bruce Lambert from How Communication Works. This is a channel where I teach you about communication skills so you can improve your relationships, succeed at work, be more confident, and lead a more fulfilling life. In many high-stakes, difficult conversations kinds of situations, we're really afraid to even enter into these situations for fear that we will say the wrong thing, something that will embarrass us, or more likely, something that will offend or hurt the feelings of or anger the person that we're talking to because the situation is so sensitive. I recently came across a story in the Los Angeles Times called How Not to Say the Wrong Thing that included a simple technique to guide us through these difficult situations and help us say the right thing and avoid saying the wrong thing, or at least give us some simple guidelines for increasing our chances of doing and saying the right thing. The author of this article calls the technique ring theory, and here's how it works. You draw a circle, and inside the circle, you put the name of the person who's most affected by the crisis. In the example that they give in the article, this is a person who has just gotten diagnosed with breast cancer. But the person in the center of the circle could be whoever it is in the situation that's most affected. The person who's just had a bad breakup or has just lost their job, has just been the victim of a crime, has just had a friend or a relative die. Whoever it is, this is the person that the crisis is most immediately happening to. And they're in the center ring. Then as the rings grow outward, you have people who are less and less directly connected to the event. So in the center ring, we have that person who's most directly affected, the person who's the victim of the crime, or the person who's gotten the bad diagnosis, or has the friend or relative who's died, or the breakup, or whatever. Then outside, maybe we have the parents and siblings and best friend of that person. And then outside that, we have maybe neighbors and old friends and work colleagues. Then outside that, we just have like friends of friends, acquaintances, people we know from work but not very well. And then the circle gets wider and wider until eventually it's just strangers. I took a screenshot of this image and I'll put it on the screen now. In the very center, you see, is the aggrieved or the afflicted person, right? The person who's most directly affected by the crisis. And then you get in these other circles a significant other, true friends, colleagues, and they go looky-loos. These are just strangers who are interested in the bad thing that's happened. But the main principle of this theory that helps us do the right thing is that if you're talking to someone who's on a more inner circle than you are, you comfort them. So comfort in. Anyone who's closer to the center of the situation than you are, all you provide is comfort. And if you want to know how to comfort people, I've made many, many videos about empathy. I'll link to my empathy playlist here. There's videos in there about how to comfort a friend and so on. I've made like 9 or 10 videos about empathy at least. So check those out if you want to know what to say when you're talking to someone who's on a circle closer to the center than you are. So comfort in. And often the most effective thing you can do when you're comforting someone closer to the inner circle is listen to them. But you want to avoid giving advice. You want to avoid telling them how to feel. You want to avoid telling them your sob story or how you know exactly how they feel. These are all things that or minimizing their problem, or telling them everything's going to be okay, or telling them that the dead person is in a better place, or telling them that everything happens for a reason. All of these things are things you want to avoid saying. Instead, you want to provide comfort for them and refer to those videos to figure out how to do that. So first principle, when you're talking to someone closer to the center of the circle, provide comfort. Now, these situations, which involve loss and duress and stress and strain, often leave us with a desire to do more than comfort. We might want to actually complain or vent or express our own emotions. So the principle of ring theory is if we're talking to people on circles further from the center than us, that is, if we're inside them in this series of rings, we're closer to the afflicted person than they are, and we're talking out, then we can dump. So then we can vent, we can criticize, we can complain, we can tell our own story, we can talk about how we feel, we can give advice, all the things which we can't do when we're talking to someone who's closer to the center of the circle. So I think this is a simple and elegant and mostly correct bit of advice that's encapsulated nicely in this idea of ring theory. So my compliments to the author of this article, who I think is the author of this theory as well. I will link to the article down below, which is in the LA Times, which is behind a paywall, but you should be able to see at least this one article. So what to do in a time of crisis? Comfort people who are closer to the center of the crisis than you are. If you have other things to say, dump out, meaning say all those other things to people who are further from the center of the crisis than you are. And if you follow this principle, you will increase your chances of saying the right thing and decrease your chances of saying the wrong thing. If you like this kind of video, go on over to howcommunicationworks.com. That's a website where I have a bunch of articles about communication, links to my coaching program, and more information about communication skills. If you give us your email address, we'll send you an ebook about empathy, which people really seem to enjoy. We'll periodically send you emails about new articles on the website or new videos on YouTube or just new information that might be useful to you if you're interested in communication skills. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate your time. See you next time.